Hello everyone, Coming Clean here. 2 days ago I introduced my Games Like Skylanders series, and today I'm kicking off with the help of some content creators. I've invited the Fellowship of Leaf, Collecting with SPENNY, Ignite the Fire and MIKEINOID to my channel, who will all suggest one game each that they think are similar to the Skylanders games. Of course you'll find links to all of their channels in the description. I'm not gonna waste any more time, I'm gonna kick it right over to Jadbury from the Fellowship of Leaf to hear what he has to say.
Hello everyone, I'm Jadbury from the Fellowship of Leaf. Thanks so much to Coming Clean Gaming for allowing me to be on the channel. So the topic of discussion is, what other game might a Skylander fan like? Upon reading this, I almost knew what titles I would recommend, either LEGO Dimensions or Disney Infinity, seeing that they are both from the Toys to Life business model. But I wanted to recommend a game that wouldn't instantly come to mind, but the more you think about this, it makes sense. I wanted to recommend a game that consists of a colourful cast of characters similar to Pokemon, while keeping an engaging story that gives a sense of adventure and progression like Final Fantasy VII, and that takes place in an epic fantasy world like Skylands, similar to Skyrim, for example. And of course, the game I'm talking about is FIFA 20. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is one of my favourite games of all time. And to be honest, the reason for this is that it hits very similar beats to some of the Skylander games. It is a massive fantasy open world game where you as Link must embark on an adventure to save Hyrule. The reason I recommend this game is because the feeling I get playing through this game really reminds me of playing Skylanders back in the day, but on a much larger scale. Hyrule really reminds me of Skylands, and of how open everything is, how different every location you go to is. I like how easy the combat is, how different it is. You can, honestly, you can enter combat any way you want. You could walk into combat like Igniter with a flaming sword and armor, devouring everything in your sight, or run in with a stick. It feels like you're playing a different character every time, or making your own Imaginator, for example. Skylanders is a very different experience for everyone who plays this, not everyone starts off with the same Skylanders, making every adventure that bit more unique. And this is also present in Breath of the Wild. Zacian and Gappy, who both played this game, had very different experiences from what I've played, and that just makes this game that bit more special. Although it's not one-for-one a Skylanders feeling game, I do think if you like Skylanders, the story and adventure feel of it, you'll have a lot of fun with The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Thanks a lot for that, Jadbury. If you haven't already, go check out the Fellowship of Leaf's channel. They don't have nearly enough subscribers, in my opinion. Now we're gonna continue with another content creator who also makes content about a vast amount of different types of video games. Collecting with SPENNY, take it away.
How's it going, everyone? My name's SPENNY, and first off, I'd like to thank Coming Clean Gaming for reaching out to me with this awesome idea, and I'm super excited to partake in this, and I'd like to share with you guys a game that I think is extremely similar to the Skylanders franchise, and that is Knack. This game is based on a man-made relic robot that was created by a scientist by using ancient technology. The entire concept is based around the idea that this talking relic is able to shrink and obtain superpowers from yellow crystals you can find throughout the game that are a one-time use. Once you use up the powers of the crystals, you're forced to find more crystals in order to use these powers again. The first way that this game is like Skylanders is because you have the ability of different types of moves. There's always close combat fighting, however, depending on how you choose to use your crystals, you are able to complete a ton of different combinations to destroy your enemies. Some of these combos include a relic tornado, a relic slam attack, and a relic long-range shot that can take up to 3 enemies down at once. These moves are super overpowered and should only be used when necessary, due to the crystals becoming somewhat harder to find as you advance in some levels. Just to clear this up, this is the intro to the game, so you're going to see me fighting robots, but as you go on, there is trolls. The normal enemies are trolls, and they're essentially taking over the world and need to be stopped by this beast of a relic named Knack. When looking at Skylanders, you're taking on Chaos and his hordes of enemies he throws at you. But this game is just a bunch of troll monsters, which is just as cool, honestly, because they all have different attacks and different ways of trying to defeat you. On top of the super crystal powers, Knack is able to get critical hits once in a while that makes for awesome slow motion segments. Did I mention, this game also has co-op. Another thing that's similar between the Skylanders game and Knack is that there's a lot of areas where you have to beat every single enemy before the gate opens and you can advance. This isn't really as annoying as it is in Skylanders because the enemies, I find they're a lot more fun to beat in Knack. And lastly, if you guys didn't know, I absolutely hate puzzles. My brain just doesn't want to work when it comes to puzzles. And in Skylanders, that is one thing I absolutely hate, is the mandatory puzzles and all the moving around of blocks. But in Knack, it's kind of different. The puzzles aren't the same as that, but they are puzzles. They're like moving platforms that you have to jump across and stuff like that, which makes it more fun, and it's more of a platformer rather than a difficult puzzle.
Thank you for that, Collecting with Spenny. Go check out Spenny's channel too, link is in the description. He makes all sorts of high quality content. But now, over to the SkyTuber whose hair is as long as his passion for this community is big. Ignite the fire, take it away.
So Coming Clean Gaming is looking at games similar to Skylanders, eh? Well, coming into this video, I wanted to talk about two games, but upon realising that I only have 3 minutes, I've decided to push Dragon's Dawn of New Riders to one side in favour of talking about the two Horizon games. Dawn of New Riders just had a similar art style and gameplay mechanics as all. It literally has block puzzles and no jumping to remind me of the good old days of Sparse Adventure. A reviewer even made the comparison, which is why I bought the game in the first place, but now we're going to move on to Horizon. At first glance, these games seem to have nothing in similarity with one another, and you'd be right. This game is set on Earth for starters, which couldn't be any further away from the setting of Skylanders, and it's set in a far future past where the landscape is lush and nature has taken over. These games are open world, unlike Skylanders. Their trading and combat systems are far more in depth, so where might the similarities lie? Initially, Trigger Happy was going to have to use gold to fire off his guns. Horizon actually stuck to the idea of this mechanic, as you need to use currency, which in this case is metal shards, to craft ammunition and resources. Plus you upgrade equipment and gear by hunting animals. In Skylanders you do it by exploring or smashing crates and using that treasure for upgrades. Not all too dissimilar, I suppose. Weaponry is probably the closest these two games will get aesthetically, and Skylanders shouldn't ever look like this, as it's way out of its budget, and it's a different style altogether when compared to Skylanders. Anyways, you fight these machines with bow and arrows or slingshots, and just these two Skylanders alone have similar weaponry. There's also a disc weapon you can fire off in Forbidden West, which you have to catch to power up and re-release. This catching mechanic to power up attacks sounds awfully similar to Starstrike's playstyle with her projectiles, if you were to ask me. Plus, these robot machines look like they'd fit right in as tech Skylanders. This Thunderjaw is a robot Tyrannosaurus Rex with about 60 guns on it. It's the equivalent of fighting against Robot rather than fighting as Robot, and we always knew how that turned out in PvP.
Robot wins. Robot 1, competitor 0.
So there you go, my excuse to gush over the Horizon series. I really hope I've turned you on to the idea of playing these games. Even if they aren't the most similar to Skylanders, they are at least games well worth playing. And this video is about more than just games that are similar to Skylanders. It's about the games we all think you should play at some point. And these Horizon games are exactly just that.
And thank you for that too. If you like Skylanders, the probability of you liking Ignite the Fire's channel is very high, so check that one out too. And last but certainly not least, I want to kick it over to MIKEINOID, the biggest SkyTuber on YouTube who isn't a SkyTuber.
What's going on, guys? This is MIKEINOID, and today I'm going to be talking about a game that's surprisingly similar to the Toys of Life game Skylanders. Skylanders is one of the most unique game franchises out there thanks to the Toys of Life gimmick, but I don't think the franchise would have been as successful as it was if they didn't have fun and unique characters to play as. The Skylanders themselves are the most important aspect of the games. Discovering a Skylanders moveset and personality was one of my favorite things to do whenever I got a new figure. Also, playing as different characters gives the Skylander games a lot of replayability. Each Skylander can level up and receive upgrades in order to take on challenging levels and enemies. Skylanders is a character heavily based game where everyone has their favorite characters to play as. Mine so happens to be a character from a different gaming franchise and not a sentient artichoke. So what's a good character based game that can be compared to the Skylanders franchise that isn't another Toys of Life game like Disney Infinity or Lego Dimensions? Honestly, the game that comes to my mind is a fairly recent game that I had a lot of fun playing. Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3: The Black Order. As the title suggests, Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 is the third game of the series, released exclusively on the Nintendo Switch on July 19th of 2019. After 10 years after Marvel Ultimate Alliance 2, MUA 3 is an action-adventure hack-and-slash game that consists of popular Marvel superheroes and villains you can play as to stop Thanos and the Black Order from retrieving all 6 Infinity Stones. Your team of Avengers, X-Men, and Spider People travel through various locations of the Marvel Universe such as Avengers Tower, Wakanda, and Asgard. You're teleported to a location, fight some baddies, and retrieve an item, in this case one of the stones. And you just rinse and repeat and you got yourself the game, which is actually a very similar story. As I do recall, Spyro's Adventure has you travel through Skylands to find the missing pieces of the Core of Light, all while beating Chaos and his minions. MUA 3 is a very grindy game. You're going to be playing through the story and challenges multiple times if you want to unlock everything. You'll see the same locations a lot, but this game is pretty addicting thanks to the fighting style of the Marvel characters you play as. You button mash your way through enemies with each character's unique attacks and abilities, switch between characters and change up your team, jump and fly to get to the next area of the map, level up and upgrade your character and their moveset, equip items that gives your characters buffs, all while preventing the main antagonist from achieving his evil plan. It's crazy to see how similar Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 and Skylanders really are. I mean, both games have a nightmare mode. If you're a huge fan of action adventure games where you can replay levels as a variety of colorful characters, then Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3: The Black Order will most likely be a game you enjoy if you love Skylanders. Did I forget to mention that you can play as the bald-headed villain in both games? They're almost identical!
And thank you so much for that. MIKEINOID is a superb content creator, well deserving of his more than 10,000 subscribers. That was all we had to offer in this video. Thank you so much to the Fellowship of Leaf, Collecting with SPENNY, Ignite Fire, and MIKEINOID for making these clips. Please check out the channels in the description, and also feel free to leave a comment if you think there's a particular game out there that you think is similar to the Skylanders games. That is, however, it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Coming Clean, and I will see you next time. Take care.